Hi everyone, my name is Miranda Kagabine, and today I will be presenting my close reading and analysis of Gustave Flaubert's short story, A Simple Heart. So this story is one of Flaubert's most emotional and impactful stories. I bawled my eyes at the end, it was so good. But it explores the life of Felicity. She's poor, uneducated servant. She lives a very quiet life. It's filled with a lot of grief, a lot of devotion, a lot of love. And although her life is defined by hardship, her faith becomes the most important part of who she is. And Flaubert uses that faith to explore big questions in life about meaning, love, spirituality, all the different things. So the source for this presentation today is going to be Gustave Flaubert's A Simple Heart from the Norton Anthology of World Literature, 3rd edition, volume 2, on pages 805 through 807, and then I'll show the book annotations on the next slide. But my main focus is Felicity's emotional and deeply personal relationship with her faith. Although she is uneducated and doesn't really understand Catholic rituals or their practices or the theology of it, her spirituality is very powerful and sincere and personal and her own. It is not shaped by doctrine, but instead by love and memory and personal experience. So my thesis is that Flaubert uses symbols, gentle irony, and religious imagery to show that even if Felicity's beliefs are not based on traditional religion, they still have deep and personal meaning and help her deal with a life of loss and loneliness. So before diving into the literary techniques, I think that it's important to understand the emotional weight of Felicity's story. Throughout her life, she loses nearly everyone she loves, if not all of them. First, it's her parents, then it's her first love, and then her mistress's children, both of them, her nephew Victor, her mistress herself, and then her pet parrot at the end. And each loss isolates her further from the world, but despite this suffering, she never loses her capacity for love at all, and I love that. It's a love that becomes the very foundation of her spirituality. It's not about ritual or practice. It is about love and memory and legacy and hope. So Catholicism itself is significant in this story because it provides the visual and the symbolic language through which Felicity understands her world. In the final pages, for example, she offers her beloved parrot Lulu to the church and envisions him as the embodiment of the Holy Spirit as she's dying. So she sees him up in the heavens. But this might sound strange, but it shows how her simple emotional faith brings her deep comfort and peace. Again, book annotations for this slide, it's going to be pages 805, 806, and 807. So on to symbolism. One of the most important ways that Flaubert shows the meaning of Felicity's faith is through symbolism, and this is seen especially with Lulu, her parrot. So by the end of her life, Lulu is more than just a pet. She is a symbol, he is a symbol of everything that she's ever loved and lost, memory, emotional connection, everything that she's ever had. So in the red on the right, you will see Norton 805. It says, she thought of the parrot, the priest gave his permission, and this made her so happy that she begged him to accept Lulu, the only thing of value she possessed when she died. So this shows how deeply Lulu matters to her. So offering him to the church is not a small gesture. It is a way of giving God everything that has ever mattered to her. And because Felicity has lost so many people in her life, her first love, her nephew, everyone, Lulu is the very last remnant of her emotional world. And by offering him, she is symbolically giving up her whole life's love. So Flaubert continues the symbolism in the final pages. If you look down at Norton 807, it says, as she breathed her last, she thought she could see in the opening heavens a gigantic parrot hovering above her head. So traditionally, the Holy Spirit is usually seen as a dove or as an angel or like a Christ-like figure. But in this moment, she sees a parrot, and I think that shows her faith, how it is shaped by personal love and what she knows to be true rather than doctrine. That is what connects her to God. So I love it because I think Flaubert shows that the entire time the Holy Spirit vicariously lived through Lulu all along, and I think that was her living link to God or the divine. I love that. And through the symbolism, I think Flaubert suggests that even an unconventional symbol can be sacred if it carries deep emotional meaning. So next, we will talk about irony. This is something that he uses a lot. I had so many pieces of evidence for this. I love this one. So he uses gentle irony, and I say gentle because he doesn't try to mock her, but instead is very I don't know, I love it. So yes, he uses irony whenever he is contrasting Felicity's personal devotion and typical traditional religious practices. So even after Lulu dies and he is stuffed, Felicity continues to treat him with reverence and tenderness. His body is practically decaying. He's being eaten up by worms. His wing is broken. His stuffing is falling out. And she still holds him so close. She's so gentle and tender with him. And after we read that, we see in Norton 805, it says she was blind by now, and she kissed him on the forehead and pressed him against her cheek. So this image is ironic because, typically religious relics are preserved in such a pristine condition. They are treated with great formality. This is a very formal, this is how it is. And Lulu, on the other hand, is the exact opposite. He is falling apart. He is deteriorating. But Felicity's love for him is still unwavering. So the irony here, I think Flaubert did not mean to mock her or make fun of her at all, but I think it was to highlight the authentic devotion and love she has. So Flaubert suggests that holiness can live in the most imperfect, humble of places. So her love for this parrot, this broken parrot, this worm-eaten parrot, I think it shows a faith that is rooted not in a ceremonial correctness, but instead in memory and affection and sincerity. I think that Flaubert seems to argue that the spiritual grace does not require perfection. It doesn't have to be perfect, and it can grow in the most humble, the least likely of places. And then moving on, we also have imagery. Flaubert uses imagery a lot to make Felicity's faith feel vivid and real. One of the most striking images in the story comes whenever Lulu is placed on the altar. So in the red, it says, Lulu, hidden under roses, showed nothing but his blue pole, which looked like a plaque of lapis lazuli. So lapis lazuli is a precious blue stone that is typically used in Catholic art to represent the heavens or Virgin Mary's robes, as seen on this image right here. And by Flaubert comparing this parrot to this holy pigment, I think it elevates the stuffed bird from a stuffed bird to a holy offering, this sacred item. And whenever he does this, it erases the boundary between the mundane and the sacred, like I was saying. So Lulu was an ordinary parrot, and in that moment, he becomes a vessel for divine presence through Felicity's love. And at the same time, Flaubert's earlier image with Lulu being eaten by the worms and his broken wing, his imperfections, I think it reminds us of mortality and imperfection. These contrasting images allow the readers to feel the full emotional weight of Felicity's situation. She doesn't worship this idealized symbol, and instead she clings to something that is flawed and broken. And through this imagery, Flaubert shows that Felicity's love becomes a metaphor for faith that embraces human fragility and imperfection rather than denying it. And then regarding the faith and the colonial context, so beneath Felicity's gentle demeanor, there is this whole lifetime of devastating loss through everything. She just loses everything. Um, and, that makes Lulu her final cornerstone for her emotional stability. But there is also a deeper historical layer under this. So religion, especially Catholicism, often spread through colonialism and this imposing European beliefs onto the different cultures. And Lulu, he is a tropical bird from far away. He was brought to France through colonial trade, and it kind of reminds us of that history with him being brought over. But also, I think that he is a representation of colonialism, where he is the Catholicism, he is the religion, he is those different things. But also, as people are forced to believe in the religion, they can also adapt it in their own way. So Felicity's unconventional way of practicing her faith, it reflects how religion can be adapted and reshaped by personal experience. So her devotion shows that faith can be very deeply personal, very unique, very her own, and it is rooted in love and memory, even whenever it doesn't follow institutional expectations. And so, in conclusion, Flaubert uses symbolism, irony, and imagery to reveal the profound depth of Felicity's faith. And although it is untraditional and deeply personal, her belief system is no less meaningful than your conventional religious practices. Her love for Lulu and the way that she envisions him as a sacred how she envisions him as this sacred item, as this holy relic. It shows how powerful her personal belief can be, even whenever it is contrasted from societal norms or religious norms. So in her life that is marked by sorrow and depression and defeat almost, her bond with her parrot gives her this peace and this purpose and this sense of divinity. And Flaubert also shows how faith can be adaptable, how it is shaped from individual experiences and memory, and even like the historical forces like the colonialism. So ultimately, A Simple Heart invites us to see that faith is not just a strict set of guidelines, but it is something that is deeply emotional and deeply personal to each individual. And yeah, thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed.